Welcome to Grant's Rock Warehouse and to our series, This is Power Pop. Today we welcome, after a 22-year hiatus, the legendary power pop band Fuzz Bubble. I'm joined by Jim Bacchi, Mark DiCarlo, and Jason Camiolo. We talk about how they reformed, talk a little bit about Sean Puffy Combs, about signing to a major label, sitting on a damn couch with Tyra Banks, producer Mike Clink, and life in Hollywood, and so much more. Don't miss this interview. Power Pop is alive and well. Before we get started, let's look at some upcoming and current programming on the channel. Coming soon is my interview with Chicago's The Empty Pockets. They have just released a brand new album titled Outside Spectrum. The week of August 27, 2022, they hit #1 on the blues album chart, #3 on the Americana folk album chart, and #5 on the top new artist chart in Billboard magazine. The band is also getting ready to go back out on the road for a UK tour with Al Stewart. Check this interview out soon. Ryan Gavalier is back once again, and so is the next episode in our Cheap Trick series. This time we are looking at 1983's Next Position Please and 1985's Standing on the Edge. If you're familiar with Cheap Trick, well, this is where things start to get interesting. I'll leave it there. Also on This is Power Pop, join Ryan Gavalier and Davy Gallagher as we take another look at the Raspberries' 1972 album. These gentlemen had some wonderful insights into this classic power pop album, so don't miss this one. Please like, subscribe, you know the thing. Let's get to the Fuzz Bubble interview. Hey, this is Grant with Grant's Rock Warehouse, and tonight I've got the band Fuzz Bubble in the house. I want to welcome you boys. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Good, man. Thanks for having us.
Excellent.
It's been 22 years. 22 years is a long time. The power pop community, I don't know how they're going to react. But I know you've got a couple of gigs coming up and you've reformed after all this time. Why don't you guys tell us a little bit about that? How did that come about?
An old associate of ours, Dave from Loaded Concerts, who's a concert promoter in the Long Island area. He originally signed us to his label Royalty Records in 1996. And he's a friend of Mark's. He grew up with Mark. Mm-hmm. And he's a promoter now, and he does shows in the Long Island, New York tri-state area. And he booked my other band, Hitman, on a show with Queensryche. A few months ago, we played with them, and I started thinking about how badly I would love to play with Fuzz Bubble again, especially now that our bass player passed away last year, and a lot of time has passed, and it kind of got us all thinking. And I mentioned to Dave, I said, "Hey, Dave," because he said to me, he goes, I always said if I could get Fuzz Bubble on a show with Cheap Trick, I'm going to call you up and ask you to do it. And I was like, well, get us on with someone else. He currently works with Zebra, sort of in a management capacity, kind of, sort of. He's working with them. And I said, put us on with Zebra. That's a great bill for us to be on. And I know that Zebra plays the Paramount a lot in Huntington, which is where I grew up. And, I said, why don't you put us on with somebody like that? Get us some shows. I'd love to play with the band again because we really miss playing together. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of it. And I know Mark has a really big band in Long Island called O.L. Amore. And apparently a lot of the O.L. Amore people are Fuzz Bubble fans. Is that correct, Mark?
Correct. I've been doing that cover band ever since Fuzz Bubble ended, for forever. Like we started it when Fuzz Bubble was disintegrating.
We were in it together.
Yeah. And throughout the old Amore, the shows, I always pop up. Well, I've done music, and I tell them about Fuzz Bubble, and people, a lot of people will go back and look at it, and they're just like, oh my God, this is cool. I'm like, yeah, it's my favorite band. So I push it a lot, and I guess we've gotten a lot of more people are excited about the Fuzz Bubble thing, which is I'm lucky.
Which is super cool.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of a, in truth, like we kind of, it sounds weird to say, but we actually didn't kind of break up. We kind of just like dissipated. We kind of got beat down by the business.
No,
you know what I mean? Like we get along great. We got along great with Brett and,
yeah, right.
It's just kind of time, ground us down into the ground.
When we got dropped all those years ago, we never stopped talking. We continued, we still kept in touch. I would do.
We recorded too. We recorded stuff together.
Well, you had that demo CD come out. I don't have that. Is that?
That was actually all the stuff that was recorded
before
from the beginning, throughout the making of the album. We wrote a lot of songs and demoed a lot of material.
Mm-hmm.
And that is basically everything else, for the most part, almost everything else that didn't end up on the album, the album was made for Bad Boy, is P. Diddy's label. We got to basically the 5-yard line, George Marino mastered that record. Me and the three of us sat in there with him, and he told us stories about mastering Beatle records. And George Marino is a mastering legend. So I actually have the master disc copy when we got ourselves dropped, or however that worked out.
Yeah, we asked to be let go.
You asked to be let go?
Yes.
Yeah. So let go. Long story short, it's really a long story. But
well, let's do this. Let's kind of go backwards a bit. Put this in a different how did you guys come together?
All right, so you and Mark, Jimmy and Mark, you guys start. You know the story.
Okay, I'll go to the beginning. 1994, I was in a different band with Mark, and I decided that I wanted to move to Los Angeles to pursue my music career more seriously. I decided to go to audio engineering school because I got tired of making demos and I hated my guitar sound. I hated the way they came out. And I'm like, I need to learn how to do this so that I can go in the studio and make my recording sound the way I want. So at the end of that recording school, basically your final project is to record something and hand it in and get graded on it. So it was a very small recording school in Long Island. So I had a buddy who we recorded with our old band at this studio, and I said, hey, I got to do a recording project. I was kind of assisting him at his studio, and I said, can I come in? And he was a drummer. I said, can I come in and do some songs, a song for my project? He said, yeah, I'll play drums. You come in with Mark. And so I came in there and did the bass and the guitar. Mark did guitar and vocals, and my friend Kevin Kelly played drums. So I basically did this 3-song recording, and then that was basically I would say late fall, probably November-ish of 1994. I moved out to Los Angeles at the beginning of 1995 and used it to get a job in a recording studio. In that time, Dave, the guy who's from Loaded Concerts, had a record label called Royalty and said, I would like to do a Fuzz Bubble record. So I was already in Los Angeles. He says, I'll fly out Mark and Kevin, and we'll make an album for Royalty Records. So we did that. We made basically a 10-song album. 3 of them were actually, no, not even. None of the songs from that original demo. We did 10 new songs. So we did that record, and then I met a manager person who said, I think I can get you guys a record deal. He got a major deal. He got a couple of major deals for some other people I knew. So we took that Royalty Records album and shopped it, and we ended up getting signed to Bad Boy. And that's how that all kind of started. So Royalty was kind of in the picture, but out of the picture. But we were going to we wanted the big record deal, so.
But between that, you had to put together a band.
Right. So So after we did the record of Royalty, the end of 1995, Dave had given the tape to Jason and Brett, who were in a different band together, and said, hey, you guys are joining Fuzz Bubble. That's basically how it came. I called the project Fuzz Bubble. I thought it was a funny name. And Dave went to approach Jason and Brett and said, you guys are going to join this band.
Well, yeah, I kind of picked Jay also because we all knew each other from Long Island bands. So I said I know the drummer that sings and he plays every instrument. I said he's our guy, and Jay happened to be in the band with Brett called the Plums. Right. So and Dave went after and got them. I'm like,
since they needed a bass player and a drummer,
yep.
The qualification was one of those dudes needs to sing background. So
right.
They said, believe it or not, with my raspy voice, they said, yeah, okay. Mark was like, yeah. Mark and I had played in a band, very short amount of time, real brief thing. We never even played out, but we did some stuff together, so we knew each other. And so he was like, okay, well, this is perfect because they knew Brett, Jimmy and
Brett
Mark
was a
both
friend.
knew Brett.
I met Brett in 1987. I mean, we go back a long time.
Before me, yeah.
His band, and he was part of it. We had a big crew of people that we were all friends with, and Brett was one of those people. There would be 30 of us hanging out at a diner. I mean, it was like all the local musicians and bands that we played with, and Brett was just there, so.
So then it just made perfect sense. They were like, well, okay, we'll take the other band that we were in was a 3-piece, and me and Brett weren't that happy with the way things were going. And so, yeah, Dave gave me this cassette of the 3-song demo that they did with Kevin. And I kind of put it on my desk. I was like, I had just joined this other band, and I wasn't ever really a guy to be like a hired gun. I was, I like to be committed to what I was doing. I was like, I'm not, leaving this band I just kind of joined to join some other band. And then, I don't know, I waited a couple of months and I listened to the tape and I was like, oh man, I screwed up. I was like, I hope they didn't get a drummer. And, cause it was great. It really blew my mind. And, so then Brett and I, what did we do? Like Jimmy, you came to visit your dad who was living in New York at the time. We were all in New York, me, Brett and Mark. And Jimmy came back to visit his dad for Christmas. And we met at a show. We met at the Raven, I think, right?
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. We just talked and bullshit, whatever. He said, well, let's have a rehearsal. It wasn't, yeah.
We set it up though.
Yeah, it was set up.
I remember flying back saying, I'm going to go meet the other two guys in my band. We're going to play for the first time.
Right.
And we never played together.
Brett and I considered it like kind of an audition, but again, Brett knew Jimmy very well. I kind of knew Jimmy again from the scene, but whatever. So it was like kind of an audition, kind of what we call our first rehearsal.
Yeah.
And we played and we drove to a Dunkin' Donuts afterwards and had coffee. And Jimmy's like, so you guys moving to California or what? And that was December of 95. And we moved in February of 96.
Yeah. It was crazy because Jay was just like,
it made no sense.
So how do we do this?
Yeah, like what do you mean? Like, what do you want to do? He's like, just move to California. I'm like, where?
Pack your shit up and move out.
Yeah.
You could sleep on my floor for a while, and then
we did.
They stayed a little longer than they should.
What we did.
That's how everybody did it.
Yeah, everyone did it. Yeah.
Sleeping bags on his bedroom floor.
Yeah, it was the classic, like, we're moving to LA to make it type of thing. I had already been out there, so I kind of knew people, and I had a studio I was working at. It was a great studio, a little studio in the back of a house, but it was a great, great studio. A lot of people did demos there that went on to do great stuff. And I said, I got the studio. We can record on the off hours, and let's just, we'll live in Hollywood. There's a big power pop scene, which there was in the mid-'90s.
Yeah.
I mean, Brian Wilson's band, the Wondermints, basically, they all play. Most of them play with Brian Wilson now. They were out there playing. Everybody was playing, So I said, "Well, come out. There's a great scene here. All these bands are getting signed.
Everclear just got signed. Foo Fighters had like their first album, Lit.
Yeah.
Who was else? Fastball. All
and
that
a
stuff.
ton of Hollywood bands that all got record deals. It kind of ended in a similar way to us, but it was the thing. Like the cover of Band Magazine, there'd be a power pop band, like talk about power pop. So we felt like, wow, we're just in the right headspace for this thing that's about to happen. And it never really did, because all the labels got shy about, like, they got like scared of power pop, and it's like, okay, well, whatever, But we ended up getting a record deal with Bad Boy in a completely different way in New York, which meant I was going back to New York a lot after we got signed.
So this is where it gets really wacky.
Yeah.
But how long was it before everybody got out to California? Before the wheels really started turning for the talking with, Sean.
Very shortly.
That was
probably in the end analysis too shortly.
Okay.
Oh, it was quick. So we moved out.
too quick.
We moved out in February of '96.
Mm-hmm.
We were showcasing for Puffy, and he got our demo in September of '96. So within a couple months, and then within a month later, we're in a rehearsal room with him. So it was quick.
That's amazing.
It was crazy.
It took 10 shows before we got out.
Barely had any shows under our belt, rehearsals. Yeah, it was. Yeah.
If you ever hear, the Knack, they played at the Whiskey for I don't know how long.
Of course.
Yeah.
People were.
And it's not like we didn't have that planned, right?
Right.
You know what I mean? The idea was like, okay, we're going to go out and do what Jimmy said. Like, yeah, obviously LA's the place to be.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of always was for whatever, scenes come in and out. But of course, we have a much better chance than Jimmy moving back to Long Island. So we're going out to LA, and he's got some managers. They're like real people. And so we're going to do this. And, again, we're taking it seriously. We're going to get tight. We're going to write. We're going to practice. Like, it's all we're going to do. We're just going to eat, live, and sleep the band like it should be. And that's why I say, like, in the end analysis, it probably was too soon. But at the same token, when you get those opportunities, you're not going to say no to them either, right?
Yeah,
So
we were still not really comfortable on stage as a band yet. We were good.
Oh, totally.
But there's a difference between we play the songs good and
we had 10 shows.
Right.
It's just amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah. So, it was a pretty whirlwindy. And then, of course, the whirlwind got freaking slowed down, and like you're on a label with a rap guy running it.
Okay.
You're on a what do you call it? A vanity label.
Yeah.
So this guy has a record label.
What was that? How were they distributed? I have no idea.
Arista.
They were through Arista.
Under Clive Davis at the time.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. This is where it really gets weird. Because it's truth. Because at the time, Puffy's like this mogul guy behind the scenes. He's not a rapper. He's not an artist.
Right.
He's this dude that we're like, told, he's got the magic touch. Like anything this guy touches turns to gold. And I mean, it's not in our wheelhouse, but whatever. He's got funding from Clive Davis. He's got Arista behind him. He's got his own subsidiary with being bankrolled. And now he wants to do something with rock.
Right.
So
he had a great track record.
Right. So we're like, okay, cool. Where it gets really wacky is yes, it went very fast, the courtship and how he found us. The kind of lore is that he was in a studio in New York. He had this guy who was an A&R guy, had a stack of CDs that he should listen to. And, the way we were told the story, God only knows, but whatever. He's going through CDs. No. He listens to like 15 seconds of Bliss, right? Like that was the song, I think. And he's like, get me that band. That's the band I want. That's it.
There you go.
And we
heard the songs.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah. So okay. So again, we're like, okay, cool. Like this guy, again, they kind of, I think, because if you remember, it's hard now in as time goes by. But like at the time, like I think Puffy was like kind of viewed as like they were going to build Bad Boy as like a Motown label where they're going to cross-pollinate their artists and collaborate. And he's just going to build this giant empire.
Yeah.
So we're like, all right, cool. Awesome. So we go back and forth and we do some showcases. We do some private stuff for him. Very awkward. I mean, he was fine, but it's just, him in a chair with bodyguards and we're playing with him at the end of the room. Just like, this is bizarre.
God.
Yeah.
But whatever, right? It's a real deal. So we're like, okay, cool. And they say, okay, well, listen, we're going to sign you guys. Like, holy shit, this is amazing. Like this, we're doing it, guys. We're doing it. And they're going to sign a record deal. And, he wants to announce a big thing. Like, Puff Daddy's Bad Boy's going to sign a rock band. And so why don't you guys come back out to LA? I think we were in New York for something. They put us in the studio. They wanted to see what we could come up with on the fly, which is smart on their behalf. So we're writing stuff in the studio, but it's still kind of weird. And there's no like exact date as to when we're signing, whatever, but we're going to announce it. So they say, come out, we're going to announce that Puffy's signing a rock band at this big party thrown by Vibe magazine on this like big club in like on the corner of like Wilshire and La Brea or something like that.
Peterson Auto Museum.
Peterson Auto Museum. I mean, it's big, you know, he's big, and Notorious B.I.G. is still alive, and he's like the biggest guy on their label. Mace, all this stuff, again, not really in our world, but you can't deny that like this guy's doing stuff. So we're like, okay, so we fly out back out to LA, and I don't remember, like something like last minute, for whatever reason, they go, we're actually not going to announce this at this party for Vibe magazine. And we're kind of like bummed, but they were like, no, listen.
Now, also, let me just interject timeline. So we meet Puffy in September of '96. What Jay is talking about now at this thing is March. That was because and just to
yes, no, that's good.
Exactly.
Some significant time has passed.
Yep. And at this party, this is where Biggie gets shot.
So last minute they say we're not gonna announce this at the Vibe magazine party. Because really the Vibe audience might not really care as much about the rock band. We're gonna announce it in Rolling Stone. So we're like, amazing. Again, this is where our heads are out. We're not a crossover, right? You gotta again remember at the time, there's like Red Hot Chili Peppers, there's Korn, Linkin Park, Limp Bizkit. You know, rock is doing like hip hop. We're nothing like that, as you know, right? We're nothing like that. So we're like, okay, great. You know, let's do this. We're going to be in Rolling Stone. Amazing. The dream come true. And so they cancel us going to that party. And at that party, they shoot into the SUV and try to kill Puffy and successfully kill Chris Wallace. Now, we weren't going to be in that SUV. That I guarantee you. I'm sure you know. We were in targets. You know, nothing. I'm not going to over dramatize it. But what did happen was, after that did happen, the label went dark. Puffy's like, someone tried to assassinate me, so I'll be back with you guys in a minute or two.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, he's part of a murder investigation. And, you know, attempt on his life. So everything just shut down.
And also, and from then on, Fuzz Bubble became, everything was back burner. It was because then after that, Puffy became an MTV star, which he hadn't been before. He, you know, did "I'll Be Missing You" with the Police.
Right. So what happens?
Star, that exploded. So he's, you know, fucking all over MTV. He's an artist now, and then it's, you know, he's hanging out with J-Lo. He's got this, and everything was, we were back burner. We were just not the priority. And as time went by, it was just harder to. You know,
that's why we asked
about us. You know, like we want to do this. You know, put us on the. You know, it was that type of thing.
His biggest selling artist on his label gets killed, and then he does the tribute for him, and that single skyrockets. And now he's like, I guess I'm now the biggest artist on my label. And again, it's one of those things. Like maybe he didn't plan it that way. Well, now that it's going, like that's what I'm doing. And then that was, you know, in hindsight, again, that's the beginning of the end for us.
Yeah.
Because like Mark said, you know, it's not like he intentionally was like, I don't want to do this anymore. He never actually said that. And that's how we end up on Godzilla, right? We end up on the soundtrack to Godzilla because Sony comes to him, or however that happens, that he's going to do a remake of you know, Kashmir, basically called Come With Me with Jimmy Page. And if you look at that album, everybody on that album, Foo Fighters, Wallflowers, I think everybody's a Sony artist except for Puffy and us. And so the deal was like, yeah, I'll do this thing, but you're also going to put my new band on the soundtrack. Which again, great. Cool.
Yeah, that was awesome.
So, and we thought that was like going to be the first single kind of thing. But yeah, time just, I'll be with you guys in a minute, but I'm doing this thing and I got to work on my next album, and I'm signing this, and I'm, you know, doing a clothing line, and I opened up a restaurant, and like literally all those things,
all of that stuff.
True.
Yeah. And we're like,
literally.
Can we make our album, please? It took us over a year and a half of waiting around being signed to the label before we, and you know, his A&R guy had us in his studio in New York, like just doing all kinds of weird random stuff. I just want to put you guys in, just experiment. Well, it's like, can we make our record, please?
Yeah.
Like that's all we want to do. We want to make our record. We want to go out on the road. make a video, go get into the circuit,
And the thing where it got this
a long time.
It got deceiving too, because you think you would easily be like, all right, well, we're just getting strung along, but I think at that time we were getting paid something. I mean, it was measly, but we were getting paid. Flights were being paid for to get Jimmy back and forth. That we were meeting with producers. Mike Clink ends up to be the guy, amazing. Like, hello, Mike Clink. But we met with some other real guys too. So it's like, it never was like wacky enough to be like, oh, this is bullshit.
Right. Because
there were signs that, something could happen here.
Exactly. Because
something's still happening, even though it's slow, but
we did get on the Godzilla soundtrack. Maybe fast forward, we were on the It's All About the Benjamins rock remix. So they did get us into the Rolling Stone magazine. So we're looking at ourselves in fucking Rolling Stone. We're on the Godzilla soundtrack. We're on this rock remix that won an MTV Music Award. So legit shit was happening. So we're like, all right, it's like
we're in Rumbo Recorders, which is where Appetite was and a bunch of other records were recorded, and we see the video come on MTV.
Yeah.
It's All About the Benjamins rock remix featuring Dave Grohl, Rob Zombie.
I watched that today.
And Fuzz Bubble. And we're watching this in the lounge of the studio while we're making the record. So that's I remember that holy shit moment because we didn't know. And one day the TV's on and we're like, our name is on there. So, while we're making our record, which we finally got to do, and we're in this big recording studio. I mean, we're
with a big producer and an amazing engineer. Ed Thacker engineered the record.
Things are happening.
Dude, it's real. Yeah, it's real stuff. Exactly.
It's real stuff.
And so that's why we did hang on as long as we did. But ultimately it just kind of broke us all down because it was just like, how much more of this can we really endure? Like,
we finished our record and we're waiting.
Like pick a single.
So
and
when
let's
did
see
you
what
guys?
happens.
Okay, so you were was Out There recorded during the sessions for this?
Yes.
Or was okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
So this was all at the same time.
Yes.
There was a chance.
How long did it take you to from that night that of the shooting? Let's just say.
Yeah.
To when you got into the studio from that moment?
A year.
A year.
Oh, it took forever. Yeah.
Yeah. 97. We started recording.
Like I said, listen. You got to realize, like, seriously, and this is legitimate. Like, I don't even blame him, but after that night, he's like, guys, somebody tried to kill me. Like, this is a murder investigation.
Right.
This guy's dead. They killed Notorious B.I.G. He's dead. So what are we going to say? Like, sorry to hear that. Hey, how about the record? Like, no, of course you're like, oh my God. Like, I remember being out.
Just step back.
In LA, right? I remember being out in LA with Jimmy, and my mother called me and being like, I saw the thing on the news. Like, are they killing bad boy artists? I'm like, I don't know. Like, what kind of question is that? I hope not. Yeah. Are you guys now? I'm like, I have no idea. It was so foreign to us. You know what I mean? Like the whole thing. So I don't know. It's
the world we come from, rivaling band artists didn't shoot each other, so it's a very foreign territory for us to be in. We're a rock band. We don't have anything to do with anything that's hip hop at all. Our influences are, the Beatles, Cheap Trick, Kiss, Van Halen, Aerosmith, whatever, rock, and so we come from a different world. So that was,
and again, even if you say like, well, then what made you guys think? Like, well, then why did you pick Bad Boy? It's like, that didn't happen. They listened to our CD and they picked us. So I'm going to assume that you want a band that sounds like the band on the disc.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the whole thing was like, I want to do a rock division. Okay, cool. All right. Well, that made sense. Then it's not going to sound like your other stuff. And you want to do something different. And so, again, it's like listen, man, it's all about the way it ends, because we could be sitting here on our 17th record in 22 years, and it could, you know what I mean? He could have put it out and it could have took off. I don't know. And if it would have, then everybody would have said, look what geniuses we were for signing to a hip hop label when everybody else was looking at rock labels.
Right.
It's only the way it ended up. Yeah. Otherwise you'd, applaud our decision making.
But Puffy, when you guys went to the studio, he really didn't interfere or have any ideas the way he wanted it to sound. He just let Mike Clink and you guys just
by
work
that
your
time,
magic?
when we were doing like the demos and stuff, like Jimmy was saying and Mark, like when they put us in the studio in the interim, like from September to whatever you said, Mark, before to see what we'd come up with, like he would come into the studio because they were there. It was his studio. It was
he would
it was
show
his
up every
proprietary studio.
It's
So
called
he'd come
Daddy's
in
house.
and he called Daddy's house. What was it? Not Power Station. What was was it the Power
Daddy's
Station?
house.
No, I know, but it used to be a bigger, I think it was Power Station.
No, why that wasn't Power Station? Power Station was a big place. This was
Anyway,
just
whatever. It's this place in New York, like right around from the Port Authority bus terminal next to Birdland. It was a
48th Street.
studio,
Yep. West side.
that he took over. And so there were two pretty big rooms. There were, again, like a legit staff, great engineers, Paul Logus, a whole bunch of things. And they would put us in and he'd come in and he'd kind of like chime in on stuff. But again, that was more, I think, to just see like, well, I want to make sure you guys didn't like work on 10 songs for the last 3 years and you got nothing else in the tank.
Yeah, he pretty much
again is smart.
The only one that was a pain in the ass was our A&R guy. He was a fucking pain in the ass. But Puffy let us creatively. He let us do what he wanted. Like with even picking the song for Godzilla. He picked like the heaviest song out of the bunch that we were making for the record that appropriately fit for the Godzilla record. So he took out there, but he just let us do what we wanted. It was the A&R guy that was a pain in the ass,
And then he would get us involved, like Mark said. These guys played on it's credited as Fuzz Bubble, but these guys also played on the Nowhere to Run track off of South Park, Chef 8 album with Ozzy, Jimmy and Old Dirty Bastard. He was on that. These guys are on All About the Benjamins. Again, credited as Fuzz Bubble, but it was these two guys. And then Mark and Brett and I played at Giant Stadium. We backed up Slash and Puffy live. We played behind Jimmy Page on that
Holy
track.
mackerel.
Jimmy was mixing something. Yeah, listen, man, it's just why I tell people, it's like, I really call it a Cinderella moment. Cause like I said, like I had a night at the ball. I turned that into a pumpkin, but I had like a legitimate night at the ball.
Yeah, we played on TV.
We attended
for them. We played on the Keenan Ivory Wayne show. We played live on MTV.
Yeah,
right.
The NBA All-Star Jam, which was not taped. It was literally in front of 5,000 people.
Live, yeah.
Completely live on MTV. We played that rock remix.
So there was always interesting things happen. It was spaced out, but there was a lot of legitimate things always happening that kept like, we were like, oh, okay, and this took, over the course of years, it was just like less and less,
right.
And then it's just, we were far from the priority at the label, and that was, he had no clue.
But, if you talk to bands that got signed during that time, a year going by before really getting going was kind of normal.
Yeah.
Labels are notorious procrastinators.
I mean, there was the story coming out almost exactly at that time about like what No Doubt went through with that first record. I think they made it and then it was shelved and rejected, and Jimmy Iovine made them record it again, I believe.
Yeah.
And, it was like 2 years for them. So yeah, exactly. It's like, that was the other thing. It's like, I mean, again, if you go back to the beginning of the conversation and we're telling you things like, oh, we had 10 shows and then we signed a record deal and we were together for, like it's so fast that it would have been unreasonable for us to be like, it should even be even quicker. You know what I mean? Like,
or were you guys out playing in between all this?
We did some. Yeah.
But we had to beg them, like, please just put us in a van, get us out on the road, put us out with that. We had to beg them, and they finally gave us a little budget, and we got in a van and we played shitty little clubs. We did the South by South, Austin, Texas, South by Southwest Festival, a lot of cool little things. But we wanted to do that because we wanted to grow as a band because we only had 20 shows under the belt. So we were begging to do that. So we did do that.
We were great in the studio. We spent a lot of time in studios. My friend's Kevin's studio. We did a bunch of stuff there. Here in LA, Hit Factory. They stuck us in studios all over, but we were like, please put us on the road. We want to become a better live band.
Yeah.
So that we're ready for when this thing drops.
Right.
We're good. you
Right.
know. So that's kind of,
or put us as an opening act for
Yeah.
something that's, you know, kind of like us.
Yeah.
and you wouldn't believe the weird resistance from the actual music business that we got.
Really?
Like, yeah, like I remember we had one meeting with a booking agency because, like, you know, we told our manager, you know, it's like, hey man, get us a meeting, get us hooked up with a booking agency so we can, you know, get on a tour and all this stuff. And you wouldn't believe, I mean, well, he could have been lying to us, but he's like, yeah, no one wants to meet with you guys. And we're just like, why?
What?
Yeah, like we're signing this big label, you know, we should be able to get a booking agency. Should be really easy. And it wasn't. None of everything was just this weird struggle. But, you know, we also had a manager who was really more in the business of managing himself, his career than ours. So we kind of were the rocket that helped him get further up the ladder, because now he's in, you know, with the biggest music mogul in the business, managing a band. He ended up actually managing Puffy's career for a little while. And we're like, dude, conflict of interest. Like,
Yeah.
you're managing the label president. We're on the label. Manage us. How about that? No, it'll be fine. And of course, you know.
At the end of the day, when I tell people the story, I'm like, anybody who like revered Puffy and what Bad Boy was doing, generally speaking, didn't really care about rock.
Right.
And anyone who cared about rock didn't care about Puffy and Bad Boy records.
Right.
Yeah. So do you think the fact that you were on that label was a hindrance then? People looked at that and went, well,
I mean, I think it personally, honestly, it was responsible for our highest highs and our lowest lows. Meaning, like, if we weren't on that label, like if we would have signed to just making it up, Capitol or whoever, would I have been on stage with Jimmy Page? No way. Would they have gotten that? No. Would they have gotten us with Slash? No. But because, so it's, you
Or
know,
Godzilla, any of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Godzilla soundtrack.
right.
Yeah.
It's bittersweet, right? So it's like, yeah, it was because we were on that label, we got the highest highs and the lowest lows. Yeah. That's the best way I could put it. Intentional or not on their behalf. Well, the high highs were intentional on their half. The low stuff was just, yeah.
And the fact that you guys had Mike Clink produce the record.
Amazing.
I can't remember, Jim, if we talked about that at all, but
Size
how did
14.
that happen? Did you actually, I'm assuming you guys all tried out different producers or met with different people.
We
And
met
when
all kinds of people. We met a lot of people. The guy we originally wanted was Jack Joseph Puig because we loved the Jellyfish records.
And he said something so complimentary about our record. I remember, I think somebody's got it on tape even, because we couldn't believe what he was just saying how if he's
well,
like,
didn't he mix this?
Yeah.
He mixed it.
We got him to mix it, right? But we wanted to do it like at Ocean Way in the room where they were doing Spilt.
Yeah,
Yeah.
where they did spilt milk.
I get it.
And that's why we got Roger Manning too.
Right.
Yeah, I want to know that story. But anyway, so
Okay,
that's
go ahead, sorry.
So, well, what happened with Jack
why
Joseph?
couldn't you get Jack not available? or-
I think Jack saw the situation and said, "I don't want to deal with Puffy.
yeah,
I can tell this is going to be a nightmare."
well, maybe
So he eventually said, "You know what, guys? I like your band, but I don't think this is a good fit for me." He said, "You know, if and he was kind of starting to go more into mixing at that point and becoming a mixer. So he said, you know, I might be open to mixing some of it, you know, check back with me, you know, good luck. I think you guys have a good band. So we're like, okay. So we started meeting with other people. And a friend of ours band called Size 14, who our manager also managed, they were on Zoo Records, I think.
Mm-hmm.
They worked with Mike Clink, and we met Mike Clink at one of their shows. And we're like, "Hi, he's a cool guy. Yeah, Guns N' Roses. Yeah." But we weren't sold on anybody yet. And Mike Clink actually called me and basically said, "I'm the guy to do your record." And he kind of had to talk me into it because I wasn't sure. Because I'm like, I was so set on Jack, that was in my brain. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, "Jimmy, I'm telling you, I'm the guy to do your record. Trust me when I tell you this." And I'm like, wow. I had to kind of like get off the phone and go, the guy who produced Guns N' Roses actually is convincing me that I should let him do our record. I'm like, maybe I should like not be so stunad and think about doing this, you know.
Jim's sitting there going, I wonder.
Yeah, because we met like a guy named Don Fleming who we really liked.
Who did Teenage Fan Club.
And Frosty.
Who was in Teenage Fan Club?
You know, we went to his apartment and he was super cool. We really liked him.
Yeah.
We met a guy named Rick Parrish who did the first Pearl Jam record. We weren't crazy about him. And a few other people. We met a bunch of people, but Mike basically sold it to me, and I was just like, you know what? Why am I being so stubborn about this? He's great, you know. And we met him, and he was like a super nice guy. And at the end of the day, his demeanor and the way he's used to handling crazy situations with bands and labels. I mean, he produced Appetite for Destruction. There is the craziest band on earth. Yeah. And he wrangled them and made that amazing record. So he was the right guy because he was able to take all the insanity that was the bureaucracy at Bad Boy Records, our crazy A&R guy, Puffy, all this, and handle it with a total steady hand.
Yeah.
You know? And he was also very much in the, like, he really sought to get what we wanted to do onto tape. You know, I was
gonna say too. Musically, he was like he understood where we were at.
Yeah. He understood. He really didn't. He didn't fuck with the songs. He kind of just let us, you know, do.
He got great performance out of us, and he dealt with the crazy aspect of the label and our crazy manager and our crazy A&R guy, like a champ.
And even though he could do it, he had the wherewithal too of like getting a great engineer to track the basic tracks.
Right.
He's like Mike's like like. What I can like the word producer means something completely different nowadays.
Yeah.
But he was like, he was perfect. Like what a professional record producer was. Part psychologist, part ringmaster, part audio engineer, you know,
part great sensibility,
part friend.
Musically,
part fifth guy in the fifth Beatle.
Everything. You know? And we still talk to him to this day. He's a wonderful human being.
Yeah.
And a great producer. So, I mean, look, he recorded UFO Obsession and Strangers in the Night. He was the engineer on those records.
Well, you can't argue with that for crying.
No, you can't.
Come on.
So how did you get Susanna Hoffs to do vocals and Roger Manning on this?
Mike Clink.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, the label said, "Who do you guys want as guests?" And in their mind, they're thinking like, "We're going to get Jay-Z. We're going to get this one." I'm like, "Okay, I want Susanna Hoffs," and they're like, "Who's that?" Like, she's the lead singer of the Bangles. Like, they're A&R guy. Like, she's the lead singer of the Bangles. The Bangles? Who cares about the Bangles? I'm like, well, I do, because she's my favorite female singer of all time. Mm-hmm. And then we said Roger Manning, and he's like, who's that? Like, he was in our favorite band, Jellyfish. You know, so on and on and on. It's like, it doesn't matter, because they wanted, like, whoever was hot on MTV at the moment, and that was their thinking. And we're like, no. We want the people that will make our music sound even better,
right?
And people that we love. So that's who we got, you know.
And it was easy as just Jimmy saying this to Mike Clink, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I can get a hold of that person." Right. And then like the week after, they're in the studio. Like,
right.
It was that quick.
Mike knew who to make the phone call to.
Mike knew.
You know?
Yeah.
I said we had one song called Boomerang on there that I said I love this band, the Blue Hawaiians. I love the lap steel guitar. I want this guy. And he went and found him. And that guy's been in my band, Tiki-Aki Orchestra, for the last 12 years or whatever.
Awesome.
Amazing steel guitar player. And you know, he wasn't a guy that was like on the studio circuit of players. He was in this band, but he found him. He's in the studio, you know, 3 weeks later playing on a track. So Mike is, you know, Mike was so well connected and he knew
experience pays.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. You want Roger Manning? Yeah, I can get him for you.
Yeah. Look, Roger Manning was a guy, you know, just came off of Imperial Drag and needed gigs. So he was a studio man about town. He showed up with a freaking carload full of amazing keyboards and he regaled us with great Jellyfish stories. And
my God, I bet.
Yeah. Just amazing. He was super cool, you know. We took pictures with him, you know. And same thing with Susanna Hoff. She was really sweet. And, you know, I remember the goosebumps I got listening to her voice come through the speakers behind the console, just like, oh my God, Susanna Hoffs is singing on our song. So, you know, all of that stuff almost makes up for the bad crap that happened.
Right. That's the thing. Like I say, it's like, it's so hard.
The high highs, the low lows. Yeah.
Would I, I always tell people, like, would I trade the experience? No. If I could change the outcome, the magic lamp is a different question. But if you said, okay, you can't change it, it is what it is. Either it is what it is, or you could erase it. I wouldn't erase it.
Yeah. It could have went amazing had they done X, Y, and Z. It could have been, it could have blown up,
But how many stories are like that?
Yeah.
So you go to the studio, you get the record done, and then it just sits there, and you guys are just waiting for something to happen. Or
we finally said, hey man, our record's done. We want to pick the songs. We want to master it. So we got to master it. And then Puffy's telling us, y'all got to pick a single. That's what he said. And we're like, that's the label's job. And he said, well, pick a single. So we said, okay, the first single should be Bliss. And he's like, I don't think so. You should do Ordinary. Ordinary's a ballad. If you're a rock band, you don't come out when your first song is a ballad, because you end up like Extreme, where everyone returns the record because the rest of the record doesn't sound like more than words. So we're like, no, rock radio's different. You put out one song, you build it up, and then your ballad is your third song, and that's when you go from selling 500,000 records to 3 million. But that's not the way the hip-hop world worked, So we're trying to explain that to him, and one day we were in the studio. It was him, us, and Jennifer Lopez, who he was dating at the time. And J-Lo was like, you all got to come out with your hottest song first. And like, oh, she doesn't get it either. But I can't argue with her because she's super famous and it works for her. So you can't say like, no, it's not the way rock works. But in their mind, and again, it was the difference between hip-hop and rock. Hip-hop would come out with the best thing on your record first, and then you go and remix stuff and make it better later. Rock, that's not the way it worked. And we're like, no, that's like, we can't come out with that because the rock stations won't play it. So it was this weird, and we couldn't, then he's telling us like, we got to get our look together, and we're like doing photo shoots, wearing all these different clothes. And it was a lot of
people dressing you in uncomfortable shit. Well, I mean, and who are we to say like, no, I don't want, you. So we had to fucking go along with it. So like, this hair color and this fucking stupid shirt. It was just, you don't say no, So it's like we were fucking. It was like
we're down at like
you're signed to the label. You just kind of do what they want you to do.
We're down at it in a giant conference room. Down at the offices in New York. Special passes to get in the elevator, to get up top, 12 people with style sheets. Which one's the drummer? Oh yeah, you. Okay, yeah, this is what would look good for you. And I guess it's part of it. It's part of some world, but again, put yourself in the time frame. We're looking at the Foo Fighters. We're like, this band fucking amazing. These guys are in jeans and t-shirts, sweating over microphones.
Yeah.
Breaking sticks and bleeding on snare drum heads.
Yeah, let us look.
That's
like
what I want to do.
Put us out on the road with them. It would have been that easy. Just but no.
We just wanted to be a rock band, and our A&R guy had all these crazy ideas for us to be something more.
Yeah.
And it was never enough. And, just like, come on. I mean, one of the photo shoots, though, and that was our choice. It was our photographer of our choice, did that amazing jump shot of us, which is
Larry Busaka.
Larry Busaka.
Yeah, that's a great shot.
And that's like Jay's wife said on Facebook one day, it's the greatest band shot that was not photoshopped. Because we jumped around like idiots for 2 hours until we got that shot.
Oh, it's a perfect shot.
It's a great shot. And, look, that was one of the photo shoots we did, and that was one that was on our terms. Like, okay, we're going to do this thing, So, unfortunately, our instincts were all right, and they just didn't understand rock. So he just couldn't relate to, no, take the ballad and put it out third. Like, so it was just one of those. And finally, with all this back and forth, our manager was just managing him and not caring about us. And we were just like, we felt like, okay, we have to get at this.
Well, and then also,
actually, even to back up as a last ditch with picking a song, Jimmy had a great idea. He's like, all right, I'm gonna write a song and we're gonna do it like we'll do like a rock rap thing. And we actually got fucking Run DMC to come in and play and work on this song called The Question that Jimmy wrote. That was very
great song.
happy. And because we were like, all right, if it worked for Aerosmith back in the day with Run DMC, let's try current now with. We got, we recorded the song. They came in. It was a great idea, but Puffy was still just like,
And even with that, like, just think about this. Just picture this, right? So they're trying to get us at the time to like, maybe you should do something with Coolio. Maybe you should do something with Busta Rhymes.
Yeah.
And we're like, like all due respect, but like, we don't even know what we would do. And Jimmy's like, yeah, like, I mean, I like some hip hop stuff. Like, back in the day, like, I loved Run DMC and like what Run DMC, did with Aerosmith. And Puff's like, all right, I'll get you Run DMC, and like walks out of the room. And we're like, but
1 second, have them here on Thursday.
And it happened. And so, what I mean? So you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And we did the song.
Yeah.
So like, that's the thing. That's what I'm saying. Just when you you would be pushed to the edge of like, this isn't really working.
Yep.
Then
something like that would happen. You'd be like, holy shit.
And even then, our A&R guys like Run DMC, like some people at the label that work with him, were just like, they're old hat. Nobody cares about them anymore. And we're like,
right.
We don't care. That's what we think will work.
You're asking us what our sensibilities are. You're asking us what would we do. This is what we would do.
Wow.
And then because I remember, this is the best part.
It just made so much sense because they had done the rock thing with Aerosmith years ago. With Bad Boy now, marrying the black and white,
the new and the old,
yeah, right.
It made perfect sense. It was such a and it was a great song that Jimmy wrote with a great it's called The Question, and there was a
great hook.
It was just it could have been a really cool pitch for Bad.
Well, the best part of that.
Throw this is the first rock thing. It would have been a great thing, but again, they just.
Here's the best part of that, not to cut you off, Mark, but
yeah,
the best part of that is after we got told, like, those guys are old hat? Why do you want to do something with them? About a month later, Kid Rock goes on MTV with Run DMC at one of the music awards, and it was the biggest hit of the night.
Yeah,
and I remember calling my A&R guy and saying,
"Yeah,
what do you think now, buddy?" And he's like, "Yeah, I guess I kind of messed that one up." I'm like, "Yeah, I guess you kind of did." Because like we had that idea, and they went and they took Run DMC and The Rock and Run DMC and made it like cool again, and like it was a big deal. And he was just like, "Yeah, I guess I could have screwed up." I'm like, "Yeah, well, maybe you should listen to us once in a while."
It would have been just as easy for Puffy to make the move, but they just they totally fucked up. So yeah.
So yeah.
So you get the album done. It sits in the can. You guys decide, we're gonna bag this. Right.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to say.
How long after that?
All along this time, right? We're kind of getting paid some money, but you all know too, right? That like the money you're getting paid is yours. You just got to pay back.
Yeah,
right. It's right.
It's a bad loan.
Jimmy's living in Los Angeles. We had moved, but then we came back because again, the funny, part of our story, the irony is that we move out to LA to make it, and we get signed by a New York-based label. So now me and Jimmy and Mark and Brett are all back in New York. Me and Mark and Brett have a rented apartment in Hollywood. Jimmy's got a rented place in Hollywood. Mark and I have cars out there. Like we moved our lives. We thought that was going to be that. And so just the back and forth of all of this was just like, what is actually going on? Like we need some kind of commitment. And, the whole time is passing. For all of us, there's relationships going on. There's, in the background, there's family, there's wives, girlfriends, all this stuff. And it's like, how, and I don't want to make this sound like I'm being judgmental or a dick or something, but like, at what point, like, am I going to be like, 55 years old, handing out a flyer in front of the Viper Room, going, come see my band on Friday. And it's like, this is, and again, whatever. If that's what you do, I'm no No offense.
What we're doing now.
But we were like, but it's, yeah. Yeah, let's cut to a commercial.
Yeah.
Edit.
Right.
Anyway, life was going on, for all of us. And
the
you know, that
music
was starting to
business
take
was changing.
well, music was changing,
Mhm.
the business. And so, you got to remember, that's another thing too. I tell people a story all the time, the guys I work with and stuff. Like, you got to remember, at this moment in time, there's not even MySpace. There's no Facebook. There's no YouTube. It's like, we were still like the last kind of chapter of, if you really want to make a living, like, you need a record label. You have to have a record label.
Yeah.
There was no other way to do it. You needed to be a part of the machine.
Right.
It was the tail end of it, but it was still that.
Right before Napster killed it. But yeah.
That's when it really started.
Yeah.
But I remember the music changing as we did a little tour that we did. We in one of our stops, we were in Nashville, I think, and they said, you need to go in the studio and work on the question some more. So we're like, okay, they found us a studio. And I remember Rolling Stone, the new Rolling Stone showed up at the studio and Britney Spears was on the cover. And that was like,
I forgot about
and I was
that.
like, man, she's like 17 and this dance music. Like, I remember getting a lump in my throat. Like, is that where this is going? That Rolling Stone is putting this on the cover now? And then I started to worry, and I'm like, crap. And sure enough, it was like, rock was, the whole Nirvana wave that started in the early 90s, and grunge and alt and all of that stuff. And, it turned into Limp Bizkit, and now it's like hip hop and rock. And then it's like, that's going, and then it's pop. And we're just like, we're this weird kind of rock power pop band with, roots in 70s and 60s rock.
Nobody was talking about, no one was citing Badfinger as an influence.
Right, except us. I had a bunch of people, but nobody had a big label.
Not in the popular culture, right?
Right. Yeah. So we thought like, well, we can be the exception, but whatever.
Well, it was that whole boy band era, so
right.
Hell,
Right.
I don't know if we still might be in that. Hell, I'm not sure. I don't really pay attention to any of that anymore.
Yeah. So it was just a weird, like, and meanwhile, we were on a platinum soundtrack. We won an MTV award at this point. And it's like, that's what the label referred to as setup. We need to do setup.
Right.
We need to get you onto this and get you onto that. And we're like, there's your setup. A million people have a record that says Fuzz Bubble on it. Granted, it has the wallflowers and everybody else.
Well,
but there is your setup.
You're on there.
Right. So how about you just put the record in the store and put us on the road and let's let us prove ourselves. Let us see what we can do. We'll make a cheap video, just something, and we could just never get, like I said, we got to the 5-yard line and, we tried to get in the end zone and we got,
Total side note and a name drop, but at one point, didn't we talk to weren't one of the guys in Space Hog interested in making a video for us?
Yeah.
One of the Space Hog guys.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Yeah, one of the Space Hog guys, I think he became a video director or did a few.
Yeah, I remember him coming down and showing, because he actually directed Cruel to Be Kind, one of their videos. I remember him showing us some of his work, and totally. It was in the city.
I don't remember that. I must have been there for that.
Yeah.
Wow. The stuff you find out. So
it only takes 22
well,
years.
I never knew about Mike Clink calling you.
I remember that phone call.
Yeah, I didn't know he called you. So
it was when I was staying in that old guy's house in Bethpage, Mark. Remember I was staying in that old guy's house? It was in the doorway of that house. I remember it.
That's when he called. That's crazy.
Yeah. So that's how. So we just eventually we went in and we're like, listen, man, either you're going to do this and you're not. And he basically said like, I don't really have the wherewithal to do this as a label. He didn't really build a rock department, and he's like, I just
go separate ways.
Yeah. I said, you guys do what you got to do. So we tried to get a deal. No one was interested. And that was that. But you
had the rights to your album though?
No.
How'd you get that?
He basically said at that meeting, I was on the phone with, they were in person. He said, you guys find a label. If not, do what you got to do. And I said, well, do what you got to do is a very loose term. So I'm going to do what I got to do, which is probably what he would have done. I put it out myself. I said, I'm going to just take it, make a CD, make a cover. It's not the greatest cover. And I'm going to put it out and I'm going to sell it independently. And that's what we did. And over the years, people heard it. And now a lot of people, it's like it's a cult thing, but a lot of people like, that's a Fuzz Bubble's record is a great record, you know. And
oh yeah, it's a great record.
So
you look on AllMusic, it gets a 4-star review.
Right. It's right. And, you know, like people like Joe Elliott used to play us on his radio show.
Yeah.
You know, Mike Portnoy is a fan and friend of the band, but he's also was a fan of the band. You know, he loved the record. So over the years, it's became a cult thing where people, you know, named it amongst great power pop records, which is, you know,
it makes all these like, you know, top power pop record lists.
Yeah, it makes a lot of
Don't Let It
lists
Get You
and-
Down makes top power pop songs. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's cool. It's awesome. You know, it's flattering. And it's kind of, you know, it's kind of what we thought, like at the risk of sounding, you know, again, not like, you know, having big heads about it, but we're like, this stuff is great. Just put it out, see what happens. Like, you know, I can't tell you, you know, with a straight face, like, oh, if they would have released a record, we would have been the next Oasis. I don't know. But you don't know that we wouldn't have been.
Right.
Like, you know, it didn't come out, so you can't answer it either way.
Right.
The bottom line is it didn't get released. And when people did hear the music, by and large, it gets good reviews. People,
Yeah, it's a great record.
So what would have happened if they released it at scale?
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know.
Well, but anyway, so you put the record out and you guys just basically, you don't technically, you kind of like faded away like the Police did, kind of. You didn't really break up, but you just
Right.
kinda,
Yeah, it was just like, well, we can't, it was kind of like, I think the notion of we can't keep doing this.
Well, because
So-
we were on two coasts.
Yeah,
I
we're
was
too
in
cold.
California. You know, those guys are still in Long Island. Brad eventually moved out to California. Jason moved to Arizona. And Mark stayed in Long Island. And so we were like, as far as I was concerned, we're a band that we just weren't operating. You know, we couldn't operate. We would do stuff. We would record and release little singles and things here and there remotely. You know, we did remote recording before it was cool. You know what I mean? Long time ago.
Yeah.
But we still talked and we're still friends and all that. It's just we were geographically challenged. You know, we're 3,000 miles apart, so there's only so much we could do. So everyone went out with their lives, and you know, we got wives, had kids, you know, did all the things that you do as you become an adult, and you know, that's that. So,
but now you're back.
but now we're back.
So yeah, so COVID hits, and again, we've been talking in friends the whole time. COVID hits, and people are going wild with like these little kind of like what we got here, the 4-box videos on YouTube, and they're jamming and they're doing all kinds of covers. And
Yeah.
Noy and Charlie Benante, they're doing all these, you know, cool projects with all these people. And I'm like, damn it, you know, like, again, like 15 years ago was a different story. Like technology's moved on. Like we should do something like that. And then we were like, well, that's cool. Like, you know, like do some covers and again, do something like this. Maybe but we're actually more like really into just like being in the studio and just putting something new out. So we had the idea to do this Cult Stars from Mars project, which is a nod to the song Cult Stars from Mars from the band. And it was going to be initially just the three of us because Brett was just in a different headspace. This is before he passed. And we're like, yeah, let's just do this because we're all kind of losing our minds. This is like, again, in the middle of the pandemic. You still don't know what's going to go on.
The beginning of it, really.
The very
Yeah.
beginning. And so we're just like, well, yeah, let's trade files and let's do something. And let's just, you know, there's no reason we shouldn't do this. Look, everybody in the world right now is collaborating online. So at the very least, you can send me a guitar track and I can put a drum track to it. And then Mark could sing to it and so forth. So that's where that happened. And then in the middle of that, I kind of had this idea like, oh, again, because, you know, doing work on a podcast, I was like, oh, maybe we should do a podcast for each single. and we'll release a single every month, and we'll do a podcast episode. And it was kind of cool, but it's another thing.
It's a lot of work.
More work to do, and it's cool and it's fun, but it's still not making music. You know what I mean? Like, it's something else to have to do. So we did some of it, and it was great. And
we got Mike Portnoy to play on the first single. I asked him, and he said, "Yeah, I'm home."
Yeah, because during that, Mike put something out on Instagram talking about like his favorite power pop records. And so like we see all the record, we're like, oh yeah, first of all, Mike Portnoy, amazing. He's from our hometown, Long Island, and like, illustrious career. And also what's super cool about him is he's not just a metalhead, or I shouldn't say just, but he doesn't only play, prog rock and metal. He's legit like a power pop enthusiast. So looking at his records, we're like, oh yeah, look, the Grays, Jellyfish, Fuzz Bubble. What are we doing there? And so Jimmy reached out to him, and we're able to get him to play. And we did, when we said Portnoy's going to play on it, Jimmy had wrote this song. It was Dragonfly Part 2, right?
Right, yeah.
And I was like, well, if it's going to be another nod back to the Fuzz Bubble thing, like, we got to get Brett to play on it. We got to have all four of us.
Right.
And I don't care if I'm not playing drums. I'll play keyboards or something else, because if Mike wants to play on it, that's awesome. But we got to get Brett. And I'm really glad we did that, because ultimately it was one of the last things he played on. We didn't know that was all going to go down.
There were 2 songs he played on.
Cold Stars.
He played on Cold Stars from Mars.
And Dragonfly Part 2.
So
yeah, that was just like, again, like an experiment, side project, like something to do, because we're all, again, stuck inside and kind of influenced by everybody doing everything online. And then when everything happened with Brett, it really kind of made us say, like, man, no one's getting any younger, and
That's true. Yeah.
no one's getting out of here alive. And like, it's kind of silly if we don't ever do anything again for no good reason together. And so that brings us back around to the beginning, right? Dave, all the way back from the Royalty Records, and one of the guys back in the original Neighborhood and stuff. So like, I'll get you a show, and you guys should do something. And so we've only got 2 shows booked in New York, and they're kind of like a reunion / tribute to the memory of Brett, and back to the hometown where we started from, and that kind of thing. And
in my hometown where I grew up,
in Jimmy's hometown,
the place we're playing is I grew up in Huntington, New York. I was born in the hospital about right around the corner from the theater, and it's a big ass place.
You guys are gonna shit when you see this place. It's one of the.
I've been looking online, actually. The Blondie just played 2 nights there. And if you look at the footage from that show,
Dave. Yeah, we were
awesome. How were they?
But she was exceptional for an old lady. Yeah, she's very good.
Oh,
yeah. I know. Yeah. No, for an older lady, she was She was
for a mature rocker.
Yeah.
I love
Clem Burke and everything.
Yeah,
but the Paramount, you're gonna shit your pants when you see it. Just the.
I've been looking at the footage. It looks amazing. And so that show.
The funny thing is, I used to, when I was in high school, the balcony section of that theater was called the Balcony Theater. They put a screen up, and they used to show like The Song Remains the Same and all these cool, like, Kentucky Fried Movie. And me and my friends would go in there, and we're talking late 70s when I was in high school, and going to see these movies on Friday nights. They would play them, and nobody, no one was watching what was going on in the theater. We'd all go in there and just get stoned in the theater and watch these movies and crack up. So it's going to be really weird for me to look up in that balcony and be like, oh yeah, one of my friends, one of my close friends who was there, he's gone now. And my other friend is going to be at the show. It's going to be really weird for me. It's a total, because I grew up 22 years of my life in Huntington. I was born in the hospital, and I used to hang out at this place. So it's going to be really kind of
there's still some balcony seats. You'll get a trip. Yeah.
I'm going to go up there and hang out, and
it'll be the first time that the original 4 of us play, but without Brett.
Yeah.
That'll be the first time. So yeah, it's weird.
Well, Well, the second time, because we got a show the night before.
Yeah, because
Well,
Friday on the 18th at 8,
Yeah,
you're at the garage.
That's in Pleasantville, Lucy's.
Yeah, with our
at
friend
Pleasantville.
Superhero. So
8
that's going to
p.m.
be our little intimate warm-up show, and then the big show with Zebra. And last in line, it's like we get to play on a bill with Vivian Campbell, Vinny Appice, and Zebra. So, and Phil Susan. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, that's awesome.
yeah, it's like
But the Zebra show sold out, correct?
Yeah.
sold out.
What about the garage show?
Still
So
some
far-
tickets available for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So far, you could still get to.
So there you go,
Pleasantville.
kids. There's
Yeah.
your chance.
We
to
have the
see
Event Tribe links up in the profile of the Instagram and our Twitter, and also on Facebook. So everybody can follow Fuzz Bubble on pretty much anything.
And I'll put all those links.
Yeah,
below.
thanks. That's awesome.
Thank you.
So, yeah. All
So
I can
there's the
say-
sordid story.
Mhm.
There's your
You
short
asked.
story.
We did it in an hour and 12 minutes.
That's not bad.
It's not bad.
Wow. Well, I can say it's glad to have you back. Is there anything else you guys need to promote or talk about, or
That's basically it for now. You know,
or
We'll be
is there
launching
any-
a new line of skincare in the fall.
Well, you guys think that you might be doing some recording in the future, putting anything else out?
Oh, well, tell me about the Cult Star stuff.
okay, so we recorded enough songs that we went on when we did these recordings. You know, these remote
Pandemic
recordings.
project.
During COVID.
We
yeah.
went back and forth on whether to keep the name and all of that. We didn't really want the association with Bad Boy anymore, anything like that. So Cult Stars from Mars was one of the first Fuzz Bubble songs. It was actually written before Fuzz Bubble, a song I wrote a long time ago. And Jason suggested, why don't we call the band Cult Stars from Mars and start new? So we recorded and so we got guests. We got Mike Portnoy, we got Chips Enough singing some background vocals, Darian Sahanaja from
Oh, from
Brian
Brian
Wilson.
Wilson. Yeah.
yeah, he's and we did a
Jeff Scott
cover
Soto,
of
you put-
Blinded by the Light with Jeff Scott Soto singing duet with Mark. There's a video of it. It's fantastic. Darian, Mike Portnoy, Mike's daughter, Jason's playing bass. So we're going to put that on there, and it's a 10. We got 10 songs, so all recorded and finishing mixing them. So we're probably going to have a CD. I'm working on having a CD ready for the show and releasing that. And then we're just going to start. I think, at least I want to just start recording new Fuzz Bubble music, because the Cult Stars from Mars stuff is really more like going for a 70s vibe, you know? So it's very Fuzz Bubble like, but with a lot more, some keyboards and things. So, and it has guests. So
Well, it was intentionally not like so like it was just like let's just do whatever the hell we want. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like it didn't matter. So like it's in a cool way.
right.
So it's not quite as focused as Fuzz Bubble. And in the end analysis, like we all talked, like again now. So just real quick, also, I moved from Phoenix now. Now both Jimmy and I are in LA together.
right. So we're able to rehearse. for
Yeah,
Fuzz
so we
Bubble.
can get together and we're like, okay, so yeah, let's just again, inspired unfortunately by the loss of Brett, we're like, okay, again, it's just really it's up to you to either do something together or not, because nothing's really stopping you now. It's just you got to choose to make time to do it.
Right. And enough people kind of remember Fuzz Bubble because, like I said, Mark's band that he plays with is a really super popular band in Long Island. And a lot of those people are Fuzz Bubble fans.
Yeah. And you
So-
do some acoustic stuff too, right, Mark? With
Right. He plays acoustically.
I mean, yeah,
Rob and
yeah. During COVID, I started playing acoustic with my old Lemoore buddy Rob, and we would do Fuzz Bubble songs, you know, acoustic. So that started it, which is, you know, yeah.
So
Yeah.
I said, let's just come back play as Fuzz Bubble again, because it was a great band and
Oh yeah.
there's no reason not to do it, you know? So, so the Cult Stars from Mars, that will be a one-off record,
Okay.
you know, and then we'll probably just get back to business as Fuzz Bubble, recording music and putting it out and hopefully playing some more shows. I hope we get I'd like to get some California shows and have the guys come out for that.
Yep.
You know, it'd be really
Might
cool.
as well.
Yeah.
I was gonna. Is this still in print?
We have stock left over, and after that sells out, I'll probably just repress. So, yeah,
Okay.
I mean, it's on all the streaming platforms.
Okay.
But if anybody, I need to put up links to actually buy the CDs because we have a
Yes,
bunch.
you
I have a
do.
bunch of stock. There's 2 CDs. There's that one and the demos.
Demos.
Rarity,
Yeah.
which
And-
is 15 songs. You know.
Also, don't forget, we did put out on Bandcamp for the 20th anniversary.
Yeah.
There is a 20th anniversary album, which is a little bit of like a combination between the red and the blue record.
Well, it's all the demo recordings of those songs on that album. So it's the full album and then the demo version.
And then
that we did
it's
over the years.
their companion demos. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there you go. There is Fuzz Bubble material
Oh yeah.
to be had.
Lots. There's a lot of stuff out there, and on YouTube there's a ton of stuff. So, you know, we have a lot of material. We recorded a lot of material during our 3-4 years together. So
It's true.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, boys, I think we've probably done it.
Cool.
It's good. You feel good?
I think this is great.
Yeah, man, I feel good. I thank you for having us on and giving us
Yeah,
a chance to tell the story and introduce ourselves to people.
Yeah.
I'm sure most of them for the first time, or reconnect with some people who are familiar with the band. That's appreciate the
We'll
opportunity.
try to get this pushed out to everybody.
Yeah.
All right. I want to thank everybody for coming on tonight. It was a great discussion. The whole history's here for everybody.
Yep.
So please like, subscribe, the links.
Instagram, Facebook,
Twitter.
All the nonsense, you know. Yeah.
Total nonsense.
Yeah.
all the
Stuff
nonsense.
the kids are doing.
All that
yeah.
nonsense, you know.
All right, boys. Well, I appreciate it. Thanks for coming on.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Man.
Cool. Thank you.